listening to The Outsiders podcast. Hello, welcome to the Outsiders podcast. I'm your host, Sean Sims, and I'm with my co-host, superstar Marvin Doc Cheatham, who's on the line. Superstar, say hi to the people.
Good day to everyone. God bless you all, and stay in the cool if you can. Drink a lot of water.
Oh, yes, it is a hot one, triple digits, baby. I mean, you got heat indexes 102, 105. It's hot. Doc, I cut the grass. I did the lawn this morning, really early, and it was still hot. So we've got a lot we're going to talk about today on the Outsiders podcast, because there's so much monkey business going on, and there's so much stupidity that's happening within our system, government system, and you have people who are putting their hats in the race as far as the Baltimore mayoral race, and people who are speculating about running, and you have all kinds of issues going on. But what I want to start with is, because we have to talk about it. Doc can't see me. You'll be able to see it on YouTube, but I've got the Orioles cap on. I've got my Orioles cap on. This is, again, a special Baltimore edition of the Outsiders podcast. And what, 3.5 games in front now?
3.5.
3.5 games in front, rolling along. I'm loving it. I mean, the last time I went to a World Series game, because Baltimore hasn't been so long, and I haven't gone, to see any other team, because really could care less. But the last time was 1979, Doc, when we played the Pirates. That was the last time I've been to a World Series. That's the last time I've been to a World Series game. And in '83, of course, we took the title, World Series title, against the Phillies. The other side of my family, my mom's side of the family, they weren't too happy about that one, because they're from Philly. But they're doing well, and we were out in the sun. We're going to talk about the press conference we had at Matthew Henson Park, Doc Cheatham's park. We had a presser there.
No, Matthew Henson, not Doc.
And we had a press conference there, and we're going to go over that, cover that as well. What's going on with this mayoral race in Baltimore City? We're going to talk about that. But I want to get started. Oh, and I can't forget, we're going to have a special guest coming up, Dr. Ted Sutton. He was also there at Matthew Henson Park for the presser as well, so he will be coming up. And I want to go over something that just happened last week, and I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised it happened, but I'm just going to cue this up and play the audio on the reason why I believe someone pulled out of an event, and I'm going to play the audio of why I believe a little birdie told me something, but let me go ahead and do that.
I want to thank you yet again for your work in bringing back Artscape after the pandemic caused a 3-year hiatus, which seems about 20 years in actuality, is how it feels. But I am pleased, and I couldn't be more overjoyed that Artscape...
No, wait a second, I have to stop. No, you closed down the city, numbnuts. That's what happened for 3 years. You closed down the city. So don't blame, oh, it was the pandemic. Other cities were open. They opened up after a while. Baltimore State closed down longer than any other city. So let me go on. Yeah, Doc, exactly.
Artscape is officially back in Baltimore this September, September the 22nd through the 24th in the historic Mount Vernon area.
And don't forget, and I said it about a month ago when we played this, don't forget to wear your vest, okay?
Of the city. We have several announcements today, and I know that many of you are wondering who will be performing at this year's festival.
Yeah, you know what? Yes, that was really interesting. Who would be performing? Who would be the headliner at Artscape? So let's go on, because he's going to make that announcement.
No, we will not be returning to the summer 2002 with Ja Rule, and contrary...
like I said before, he thinks he's a comedian. Let's continue.
Contrary to popular belief, there is no dilemma about who will be our headline performer.
There is no dilemma, Doctor. Are you hearing this clearly? I want to make sure, because the other time we had a little problem with the audio, and yourself and Linda Batts and Mary Hughes were having a little difficulty hearing. Can you hear this okay? Doc, are you hearing this okay?
I can hear, but it sounds a little muffled.
A little muffled. Okay, as long as you're hearing, I just want to make sure. Well, let me go on.
This year, as we will welcome a Grammy Award-winning Child of Destiny, Kelly Rowland, as our as our headliner for Friday night. I want everyone to find your motivation to make sure that you make it there on Artscape for Friday night. Joining her are Nile Rodgers and Chick, and as a headline on Saturday afternoon. And we will also have Dr. Madbot featuring frontman Fishbone, Angelo Moore on our North of North stage as a headline on Saturday night, because Artscape is no longer only going to be in Mount Vernon. We're joining her on Kelly Rowland as our Friday night.
Okay, there we go.
As our headliner for Friday night. I want everyone to find your motivation to make sure that you make it. Contrary to popular belief, there is no dilemma about who will be our headline performer this year, as we will welcome a Grammy Award-winning Child of Destiny.
Stop. Now, first of all, I had to play it again. Go back. Child of Destiny, and I said this. You're the mayor of a large metropolitan city. You have an Artscape event, free event, largest free event, I believe, in the country. And you're introducing a headliner, the headliner for the event, and you don't know the name of the daggone group.
Kelly Rowland as our Friday.
Then the guy who's doing the sign language leans over to him. I'm going to say it again, for those who've heard this, those who have not heard this. Leaned over to him, Slim Shady, Brandon Scott, and said, the group is, it's Destiny's Child. Numbnuts, that's the name of the group. It's not Child, he's trying to tell him. And instead of correcting himself, shoos him away and goes on. This is the reason why, from information I'm getting back, so disrespectful that she's canceling out. And I'm going to finish this real quick because there's another thing I want to say.
As our headliner for Friday night, I want everyone to find your motivation to make sure that you make it there on our skate for Friday night. Joining her are Nile Rodgers and Chick.
Now, Nile Rodgers and Chick.
You're about chic.
Bubblehead. No, it's Nile Rodgers and Chic. Doc is correct. I know, Doc, you remember them well. I remember Chic.
Man, I love them deal. They came out with a new style of music that really turned things around, and a lot of artists ended up using their background information because the sound was so progressive.
It was great, fantastic. I love that group. But I wonder if Nile Rodgers is going to back out at the last minute too. But I just wanted to get that out.
Ross, Sister Sledge, and quite a few others use the Sheep and Nile Rodgers background information, not the information, music.
Well, supergroup Chic, what I call it. So we'll see if Nile Rodgers pulls out as well, since what a jag off. Anyway, I want to get to the announcement that was made. There are two. One announcement had to do with an exploratory committee, Bob Wallace. He's putting together an exploratory committee to see if he wants to make the run for mayor. Doc, you know Bob Wallace. You know, clearly.
Doing quite well. As a matter of fact, I invited him to our press conference the other day, and he showed up.
Yes, and he was there as well. But what do you think of Bob Wallace? What type of mayor would he make were he to win?
I think with anyone that runs for such a high-level position, you come to the table bringing your expertise and experiences. But I think what's probably just as important, maybe not quite as important, but almost, is the people you put around you that give you advice and guidance on what you do. And that's where I had some serious problems with some of the mayors that we had, is not putting the people around you. So have the people let them know you want to hear the best advice they can give you. Not what you want to hear, but what they're going to advise you to do for and on behalf of the citizens. And that's where I have a real concern with our current mayors. I don't have the impression that he has the real right people around him to advise him on the different issues that he's coming up with.
Well, I don't know a whole lot about Bob Wallace, so I did a little vetting. Businessman, looks like he's an author, entrepreneur. This guy is something else. Keynote speaker, specializing in industries of engineering, information technology, executive coaching. So he's got a very solid background. I'm going to dive more into his politics per se, but just looking at him, right, as far as a candidate, as far as a person, integrity, intelligence, having a good background, the guy who's a mover and shaker, looks like he's done some things. It looks like he does have that covered. So I'm going to do some more, and I'm going to call him too. I'm going to speak with him. You might get him on the show. Hey Doc, can you get him on the show?
I'll do my best for you, of course.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I want to get Bob on the show. I have put out an invitation. I had put out an invitation to speak with Sheila. She has not reciprocated, return any emails, except she did send a little blurb about one of my shows that I sent to her. But other than that, she's been a no-show. And speaking of Sheila Dixon, she made her announcement today. Woo, yippee, yahoo. Anyway, running again. Now these are from some of the papers and some news organizations. Seattle Times, convicted of embezzlement. Former Baltimore Mayor Sheila Dixon is running again. The Daily Record. Former Baltimore Mayor Sheila Dixon, convicted of embezzlement, is running again. Let's go on. The Baltimore Sun. former Baltimore Mayor Sheila Dixon to run again in 2024, apologized again for crimes that forced her from office. And, oh, there's more. I'll read one more. The Associated Press. Convicted of embezzlement, former Baltimore Mayor Sheila Dixon is running again. It seems to be a theme. Doc, what do you think?
Well, I look at it this way. The media is trying to sell papers and trying to sell news. The issue dealing with what transgression Sheila may have or got convicted to, it's going to be up to the citizens of Baltimore that are the voters. Not just talking about the people who talk about it, but the voters as to what is it that they want. And I just think it's going to be important, and I think imperative that through your great show, that we vet these candidates and bring them forth as often as we can to ask the hard questions. I think that's how you find out who's going to best serve you. It's not throwing rocks at them, but asking them hard questions, bringing up issues. What you going to do about education? What you going to do about the potholes? What you going to do about crime? What you going to do about food desert? 33% of Baltimore City has food desert. There are going to be issues that are more pertinent to individuals, and the individuals need to hear what are the responses. So I'm giving all of them a chance to come and talk and answer some of the questions that need to be answered, because we got to know who's going to be the best person that's going to represent us and address the concerns and problems that we have.
Now, I remember we did a show, and of course we were speaking about the food deserts and what's going on in your area and other areas of the cities with these food deserts. And her name came up, Sheila Dixon's name came up. And I distinctly remember that you were pointing out in regards to the food deserts and Sheila Dixon and helping you to alleviate, get rid of these food deserts, that she really wasn't much help in that aspect. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I'm going to paint the brush, I'm going to paint the wall with a big brush. None of the current elected officials, past or present, have done anything significant to address food deserts. And I'm saying the last 12 years. The last 20 years.
Mm-hmm. So, in regards to a person who was the mayor of Baltimore City for 3 years, it's a 4-year term, everyone knows that, for the office of mayor. She held the office for 3 of the 4 years. The first 2 years, seemed to be, there wasn't really much going on. And the crime was still high. I mean, compared to New York City and other cities, still high, but it was lower than it is now. And that third year was basically a year under scrutiny and indictment, 12 indictments. And she stepped down. So, you know, how she did.
I would like to say that she is correct that crime and violence went down during her term. But I want to take a little credit with the NAACP, because I was the branch president. That was the closest, strongest relationship between the NAACP and the Baltimore City Police Department in the last 30 years. We met with the police department, fire department. We met with them on a monthly basis, and I don't mind saying it. I think the gentleman who was the police commissioner, Fred Tuckles, we had an excellent relationship. We did not always agree on issues, but we met every month. And during that period of time that Sheila's crime went down, it definitely did. I think very little credit is given to the NAACP for that outstanding relationship that we had with Fred Bielefeld, who was the police commissioner during Sheila's term.
Well, let's give credit where credit is due. If the mayor, did the mayor put in this Fred Bielefeld? Did she put him in as a police commissioner?
It's hard to say because it's right during the same period of time that Valley went in as governor.
Okay.
So I don't remember it quite that much.
Well,
as to whether she appointed him or he was appointed under O'Malley. But I do know that it was a good working relationship, but many of us were working with the different heads of communities because they had done so long. That's what shortly after the fire department had an all-white fire class. And of course, the NAACP went against that, So, yes, she was very successful in a lot of areas, but I don't want her to overlook how strong the NAACP was the number one branch out of 1,400 branches throughout the United States. We were the number one branch during that period of time that she was mayor.
okay, so, I mean, I understand what you're saying. If the crime rate, violence rate, homicide rate is down, but okay, was it because of the fact that she was such a fantastic mayor in regards to that aspect
I
of
think
the
that
city?
has something to do with it, but I think P.M. Smith says it best. It's all about relationships. And during that period of time, folks had relationships with city agencies, with civil rights groups. There was a relationship, not a yes man and no man issue, but we communicated on a regular basis. And communication is what makes you successful or unsuccessful. If you're not willing to sit down at the table and discuss with folks the issues that you don't totally agree on, you're never going to be successful. We were very successful thanks to Sheila's leadership, but at the same time, that the leadership of the NAACP was probably at one of its most paramount successful years in the last 20 years.
Okay, well, when did Sheila become mayor? I'm curious now. My curiosity piqued.
Martin, we filed a lawsuit against Martin in 2006, so it had to be either 2006 or 2007.
Okay. Okay, because she looks like she rolled out in 2010. But anyway, I want to play.
I remember dates according to the class action lawsuits that I filed.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and play her announcement. It's about a little over a minute. But let's listen to Sheila Dixon making her official announcement.
In 2020, she did say she's never running again. When asked about that today, she said, "I've learned you should never say never." Former Mayor Sheila Dixon here in Druid Heights within the last hour announced she is running for mayor again. Says she plans to file as a candidate in the 2024 Democratic primary. She launched her campaign, she told the crowd here, at Gold Street Community Park because she said this is where she got her start in city politics years ago. She was first elected as the mayor of Baltimore in 2006. She left office, you may remember, in 2010 amid an embezzlement scandal, and there were charges as well. Today, she apologized for those mistakes. She said Baltimore City needs accountability and continuity. And as those of us who have followed Mayor Dixon in the past know, she pulled a classic Mayor Dixon move. She ad-libbed the beginning of her speech and connected it to all the people standing out here in the oppressive heat. Listen to how she did that.
So we're going to be very succinct because it's 90-some degrees probably right now, and if we create more trees and more parks in inner city communities, it actually gets cooler. When you have less trees and less parks, it's actually 10 degrees or 20 degrees hotter. But what happens is when administrations change, for some reason, instead of continuing to build on strengthening our neighborhoods and communities, it stops.
Okay, well, there you go. Her big thing was the education and not crime being the number one issue in Baltimore City. She said it was education. I said it was crime, violent crime specifically. So we'll see what happens with that. I will say this much, and full disclosure, because I believe people should know this. I think this is very important. No one said it, and I defy Sheila Dixon to call me, go on radio, go on TV, and say what I'm about to say now is not true. I defy her. Now, what happened is, because a business associate, two business associates of mine, were at the meeting. The meeting that she called 12 o'clock that night, where she came up with this gift card idea. The contractor was there. And this is what I was told during that meeting. She came up, she announced that she was going to utilize this gift card, I guess, situation. And after the midnight meeting, she was pulled over by my former business associate and friend. Sheila knows who she is. And if she says anything otherwise, I'll give her a call, and she may come up here and get in front of some cameras. But she pulled her over and said, "Look, Sheila, this is a bad idea." She got warned when she came up with the idea. Do not do this. This is a bad idea. This will come back and it will bite you. And her response was, Sheila's response was, "Oh, you worry too much. Everything's going to be just fine." Okay? Now, and again, I defy Sheila to say that didn't happen. Go ahead, Sheila, say that didn't happen. Okay? Because that's what happened. She had someone, an advisor, okay, telling her, pulling her up after the meeting, not days later or weeks later or months later. "Hey, maybe we should think this over." Right after the meeting. Don't do this. What are you doing? Stop it. So I'm, full disclosure, I'm well aware of this. And I'm going to say something else too, because this is important to me. And I want to make this perfectly clear. I was raised in a church. I know all about redemption, being redeemed. And this is what she's saying, redemption, and I'm redeemed and moving on. My grandfather was the pastor of a church. I've watched people who've done all kinds of things, Doc, and everyone out there, okay? Been with them, know them. But here's the situation. You can't convolute and use what she did, these criminal acts, while in office, and then be redeemed, because redemption, all of us need redemption. But to take that and then use it and say, well, because I've been redeemed, then I should be able to come back and be mayor of the city after what you did to the city. That's not what that means. It means you've been forgiven. Move on. Move on. Move on. It doesn't mean you have a right to come back and you have a thumbs up or an okay to come back to be mayor of the city that you did this act to. And I want to make that perfectly clear. Don't get it convoluted. Don't get it twisted. So, Doc, what did you think of that? We're going to move on real quick. But I wanted to get that out there.
I guess I have a little bit of a different opinion with reference to it. Now, I'll make a confession that I supported someone who came on TV unbeknownst that he was on the camera and said that B set me up. And I'm talking about the mayor for Washington, D.C. I felt that, yes, God makes none of us perfect. We all make mistakes, some bigger than others. But I think at some point in time, if individuals who have fallen down, we fall down when we get back up. And I think, like, Murray and Barry, I went to Washington, D.C. and helped him campaign to get reelected, because I really think out of all the people that were running in that area, he was probably the one that would help the people the most. So I'm not one that basically doesn't forgive some of the things that we do wrong, because we all do things wrong at some point in time, some bigger than others. So I don't hold that issue. I haven't forgotten what Sheila and Murray did. I've kind of forgotten both of what they've done, because I do believe in their heart they really care about the two cities?
I believe in forgiveness. Don't get me wrong. I believe in forgiveness, but I also believe that, hey, look, you disqualified yourselves for this office ever again. Sure, God will forgive and you move on, but to come back and say, hey, I want this office again, no, I don't believe it. But I will say this. Okay, and I'm going to make this perfectly clear. Everyone listen. When it comes to Brandon Scott, hypothetically speaking, I guess I can't really use this now, but I am going to use it anyway. If Brandon Scott and Sheila Dixon were running against each other, just the two of them, I would vote for Sheila Dixon 10 out of 10 times over Brandon Scott, because what he has done to this city I was born and raised in, okay, what he has done to this city, the things he has done, given control of the conduit to BGE when the people voted against it, and all the other shenanigans that have gone on, close the city down, the crime rate. The crime rate overall is over 13%. And listen here, Brandon, I'm going to make this perfectly clear, Ace. You got a problem with your numbers. See, you promised a 15% reduction in homicide each year, Ace. And I don't hear you saying anything about it because you backed off. Now, if you do the math, that's 15% the first year, which you failed. So that the first year, okay, it puts you behind 15%. Then you got to make up for it for the second year because you had a campaign promise for 15% each year of your term. The second year, you missed the mark. Oops, that's another 30%. You're 30% in the hole, Jack. You're 30% in the hole. No, wait.
BAL earlier today. I got final confirmation that we did have the 27th homicide in the Western District happened yesterday.
Wow.
The number that we had last year was 33. We averaging a little less than 3 homicides a year in the Western District. Right now, we can't predict, not calling ourselves out on something bad is going to happen, but the crime will go up in the Western District from last year to this year. We had 27. Last year the number was 33, and years before that, 6 out of 8 years, our homicides were 80. So, you know, I look at police much different than everybody else. And I'm not ashamed to say it because I do know this. I do know that Baltimore City has always been considered to be the heroin capital of the United States. We're all these police that know this and haven't done anything about it. I saw not one policeman that came forward to say that they were guilty of illegal arrest and knew about it. We ain't got suing the commissioner and the mayor. No one said anything about that. We were saying for years, at least 2 years in a row, about the gun trace task force. All these people now, former retired police officers, sergeant, majors, but none of them came forward to tell us about the gun trace task force. And what makes things worse today, the thing that we have now, the consent decree comes as a result of the police violating 3 constitutional members. I have not heard not one policeman, I don't care what rank they are in, now or past, I have not heard one police officer say anything about the 3 constitutional members that caused them to be under the consent decree. So I don't trust any of the police officers because they all knew some of these things were doing wrong, and I know not one of them have come forward on all of these things that are being done. 3 constitutional members, the 1st, the 4th, and the 14th. Anybody say anything about that? That's why the consent decree is here. You're violating 3 constitutional members. Have you heard any police officer say anything about it? The answer is no.
No, they haven't come forward. And the crime is up. And the consent decree isn't being followed. And you do have this guy who's 30% in the hole for a second year. This is his 3rd year. That's another 15%, Ace. That means you're 45% crime reduction. The number for this year for homicides, no more than homicides, he was going to bring it down because it's a 15% reduction each year. And I'm going to stay on it. I'm going to stay on it like a pit bull, like white on rice. And I'm not going to let this issue go. And that means he's 45% in the hole. So he goes what? We're 20%, 20%. Okay, that means you're 25% in the hole. If you've got a crime reduction in violence, homicide particularly, and you are at 20%, and you promise 45% by your third year, because it's 15 plus 15 plus 15 is 45%, and the number is 206. There should be no more than 206 homicides per his campaign promise for this year, for 2023. And we're well on track to obliterate that. So this crap, he keeps putting out about 20% reduction, we're 20% reduction. It's supposed to be 45% in total by now. So I just wanted to get that out. And I don't want the people to buy this. I don't want the people to buy in to his crap about, oh, it's down 20. Well, you blew it the last 2 years, man. So it's supposed to be 30% lower now. And now you're in year 2023, add another 15. So by the end of this year, it's supposed to be 45% lower. I am not going to get off that issue. I don't care.
I totally agree with your assessment. I'm telling folks in the Western District, our homicide rate will go up in 2023.
Well, this
go up. It's already up already. We had 27. So it's going to go up. And so what's the excuse here? We know what it is. You put the police force and other communities, like those 3 white communities that you had the curfew, that you only put them in the white communities. You didn't put the curfew in the black communities.
Oh, well, let me do this. Let me call our guest. I'm going to give him a call, Dr. Ted Sutton. So let me go ahead and call Doc, and I'm going to put you in with him. Let me go ahead and set this up. We're calling Dr. Ted Sutton, our guest. And there he is. Hello, Dr. Ted. You're on with Doc Cheatham and myself on the Outsiders podcast.
Good. How you doing today? It's an honor to have you. Yeah, it's an honor to be on there and have a platform to get the message out.
We definitely got to get this message out. What I'm going to do, Ted, this is what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to play a clip so that the people can hear, and we're going to talk about, what's going on, what happened with the Brooklyn Day massacre and information you got, but I'm going to play this clip now, and we're going to go over all of that. So let me go ahead and set it up. Here we go.
All right.
And thank you all for being here today. As always, I'm going to start this off. As of today, we are seeing a 20% reduction in homicides in Baltimore City.
Now, this is exactly what I was just talking about. Ted, this is what we were talking about. We were talking about how Slim Shady keeps touting the homicide rate reduction so far this year at 20%. But this is the point that I was making. His campaign promise was for the first year to be a 15% reduction in homicide, which there wasn't, so he blew it. That means you're 15% in the hole going into the second year. The second year, he promised a 15% reduction in homicide for that year, which he blew, did not reach. So he's in a hole again. I believe it went up. So he's in a hole again. Now, he's in his third year. Simple math, 15 plus 15 plus 15 is 45%. And the homicide rate for 2023, per his campaign promise, I did the numbers, should be no more than 206. So what do you think of him with this number manipulation he's doing to try to hornswoggle, to try to smokescreen, to try to gaslight the citizens of Baltimore City in thinking that, hey, he's really doing a good job?
Well, And first, let me just say, I just want to, my heart goes out to the families.
Oh my goodness, yes.
The families of some of those funerals that I've gone to. The families that I've gone to some of those repasses this year. Some of the families that I have had to deal with who may not have the exact same sentiment as his statement, shows. That's people want answers, and what's at stake are not numbers. Let me be clear with that. I know people, because the numbers have been high since the Freddie Gray uprising. But we are not dealing with numbers. We are dealing with youth and young people in this city who will not have the opportunity to walk down the aisle and walk their daughter down the aisle. Who will not have the opportunity for us to go to graduations. This is what we're dealing with. And so, in speaking very frankly, I just hate to hear when we have diminished lives and families and youth to percentages and just numbers. Because we're not dealing with numbers, we're dealing with people that cannot come back.
Exactly.
And so, I think it's unfortunate, and I think that we are looking for stronger leadership across the board. Because I feel that we definitely have to have a stronger community policing. Now that's my opinion with it. Not the zero tolerance, not the
campaign fundraiser
going to lock up and everything. I mean, we have to focus on trying to deal with, see, we going after the individual as opposed to going after the culture that they are involved in. So, I hear that, and some of the families and some of the people that I work with in the community, they may not feel the exact same way as that statement.
I think that what he's doing is this, okay, and I'm going to say it again, this group violence reduction stinkfest strategy, he calls it. He's touting this strategy to take it throughout the country, and to utilize it throughout the country, and to have it not work would be devastating. And he doesn't care about people. I don't care. That's what he said. It was asked a question about the calls that came in, from people pleading and screaming, and hey, look, there's people here who are armed with guns and knives. These calls came in for hours. And he was asked at a press conference, what about the warnings? And he said, to tell you the truth, I really don't care. So he doesn't care about people and their lives. He only cares about what he wants to do when he wants to do it. And these numbers are using, and you're right, Ted, you're correct. It's more than numbers. These are people's lives. These are people who are affected by this crime, by this violence, and he said it. I really don't care. And I believe him. Doc, what do you think of that?
I'm with you 100%, and I think what Sam's saying is 100% correct.
And let me continue real quick, and then we'll move on, but I want to get this out.
And a 10% reduction in on-field shootings, but I have a few other numbers to kick us off. As you all can see, it is extremely hot outside. We are in a cold, red heat advisory today. The health department has continued to circulate information about our cooling centers and strategies residents can use to stay safe. A number of schools remain in virtual learning due to the heat, and yesterday Wrecking Parks.
Yes, that's a good segue. Thanks, Brandon. I really appreciate that segue you just gave me. The heat in the schools. Why in the hell are these schools without air conditioning when this knucklehead received in ARPA funds $641 million? Riddle me that. Can somebody answer that? Why doesn't the school have air conditioning? Why are they being let out? Why is Dr. Sandalisa still the CEO of the school system? I have a whole bunch of questions with this school system and all this money, which he bragged about giving the most money to the Baltimore City school system than any other mayor, yet the schools don't have air conditioning. Anybody have a word on that?
I was just wanted to say something, because I was talking to some youth yesterday, and, when they wasn't in school, and I wasn't trying to just put them on blast, but I did want to talk to them, and I wanted to know what was, they were just like, big homie, they was like, it's just too hot in there.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? and you know what, I couldn't even get angry at them. I couldn't even get angry at them because, see, these children shouldn't have to be in a position to figure out where they're gonna be at. They shouldn't have to figure out how I'm going to survive. They definitely shouldn't have to figure out, what am I going to eat? We're talking about our children now. And so, I think that, we really have to bring the best to the table. See, and it's unfortunate because some people do have the answers, but you have people who may not want to work with everybody. You have people, see, it's been very cliquish, and so if you don't fit into that clique, you may not have a voice at the table. I've been working with helping young people to get gangs, to get out of gangs, change their lives around for years. I'm one of 60 in the country that people call out for. I've never received a dime of grant money. Never.
Wow.
And the majority of what I have done has been out of my own pocket that I have received after I speak or train in another city. And so I think that we have to build a stronger infrastructure until you can have the people who actually are boots on the ground doing the work, and then you have the people who are able to get the funding and the grant money, and and there has to be some infrastructure in between to get the resources to the people who are really connected to what's going on in our community.
So let me get this straight, Ted. You're saying that you go to other cities and speak and so on, and the funds you receive from other cities, you bring back to Baltimore in order to help folks.
100%.
Well, so you have to go out of your own city.
In Albuquerque, New Mexico, they have my program where if the youth had a second offense, the parent can opt for them to be in my 8-week program, and if they finish, they won't have no record.
Wow.
In Chester, PA, I was actually training, and doing things. In Chicago, I was actually training mentors to mentor youth who were incarcerated, and then be their mentor before they come home, and then when they come home, to help them navigate through different issues that they have to deal with, like just even getting a license or getting an ID and trying to get a job and different things of that nature. So when I look at, some of this, I think it's just, kind of unfortunate because to me, we're never going to be able to make change in our community until people can stop worrying about who's going to get the credit and who's going to get the money.
That's what
until we can come together, put aside all of that stuff, because anything that I even address with politicians, it ain't personal. I don't have no personal problem with them. The problem that I have is people have to hold people accountable for not just what they do, but also for what they don't do.
Exactly. Right. The Doc, you were going to say something.
Well, the accountability is definitely the chosen word. I totally agree because I would say this, and I do call names on people because I know no federal, city, or state official in Baltimore City has a child that's going to a school that doesn't have air conditioning.
Okay.
You know, I call it like I said. I'm too old to sit around. I gotta call it like I see it. You know, and I got a little inquiry done. We'll know by this weekend whether or not any member on the Baltimore City Board of School Commissions, whether any of them has a child that has gone to a school where there's no air conditioning. My guess is none. But we do know that no elected official, federal, city, or state, has a child in a school that's not air conditioned. And we got to start calling names. There's an election coming up next year. We got to call these names out of people that are not doing this right.
Well, here's the thing of the name I'm calling out, because this is going to segue right into what we're getting ready to talk about now. That's the press conference we had at Matthew Henson Park. But what I want to say is this. This mass shooting, the worst mass shooting in the history of Baltimore City that went national, and I reached out, and I'm going to call her name, Councilwoman Felicia Porter of District 10. I reached out to her via phone and email to find out when did she find out, or if she found out, if she was even told, but when did she find out that they were going to wipe a crime scene clean several hours, 6 hours, 7 hours after a mass shooting, where normally a scene of that size with that many people shot and 2 murdered, including Mrs. Crystal Gonzalez's daughter, Aaliyah Gonzalez, and she was at the press conference at Matthew Henson Park, and Kailas Fagbani and his family, 20 years old, and he was murdered as well. When did she find out that the crime scene was being wiped, or when it, what happened regarding that situation? And this councilwoman, Felicia Porter, for some reason, I mean, if she didn't know, or if that wasn't in her purview, she could have simply communicated that to me. But for some reason, will not get back with me. And I don't understand why that is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play the coverage of the press conference at Matthew Henson Park this week.
Deep dive into the shooting and the investigation. Jeff?
Well, while the city's own assessment of how it handled this shooting may have been lengthy, tonight the mother of one teenage victim tells us it hardly went far enough.
Every single day we are forced to adjust to living without my daughter.
At a community meeting in West Baltimore tonight, Crystal Gonzalez described her anguish and her anger at a city which she says has failed her.
I just want to say how heartbreaking it is to know how terribly officers have failed my daughter.
Her daughter, 18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez, was one of 2 people shot dead during a mass shooting in Brooklyn more than 2 months ago. Last week, the city issued a 173-page assessment of its handling of the shooting and found that the city failed to properly prepare and protect the hundreds of people attending a block party that night.
You all failed. Every one of you organizations that have something to do with it, you failed.
Former NAACP President Marvin Doc Cheatham is calling on Maryland's congressional delegation to request a federal probe of the shooting. There are too many unanswered questions, he says, and still no arrest of those directly responsible.
We are not satisfied with the city patting themselves on the back, writing their own report. We're saying this must not happen again.
We have a job, right?
Right.
To protect and to serve. You showed up to work that day. You did not protect. You did not serve.
Crystal Gonzalez is also calling for a deeper review, insisting that she deserves to know what really happened that night and why.
Let me tell you what happens when you don't protect and serve. My daughter ends up in an urn in my living room and not work. You failed.
Yes, they failed miserably. And it is, and you know, I'm in communication with Ms. Gonzalez, and hopefully I'm going to have her on the show. But they failed miserably, and I believe it's more, and this is what I keep stressing, and I won't stop. It's more than just a failure. My opinion, from all the information I've been getting from folks who know about this sort of thing, what police are supposed to do, and so on, and I believe that, and this is what I believe, that this was done to keep this GVRS alive. Save Street's involvement, I don't know how deep they're involved with it, with this thing, because there were 5 fights, incidences, and Ted, could you talk about what you know about these 5 incidences that happened that day?
Well, actually, I had some people that I talked to who told me they intentionally brought their children in. When this initially happened, this is when different people said that they had actually called. And but the fights is really what started people running initially. So it was already, they told me that they had been, unfortunately, gunplay the year before this at the same type of event.
Wow.
And so it wasn't like absurd that there was a possibility that this could happen. Now, I will say, I don't think anyone from City Hall to any foot soldier officer would have thought for a second that it would have been to this degree. But to me, it wasn't something that was absurd, that it was going to possibly, you know, it could get a little dangerous. And I think that was some of the things. So you had people who were just expected for law enforcement to show up after they had made calls, you know, and unfortunately it seemed like, you know, some people still did not take that move, like they were still on vacation because it was a holiday weekend.
Well, what Mrs. Gonzalez said to acting Commissioner Worley and Slim Shady, the embarrassment, Randy Scott, oh boy. Anyway, what she said at the town hall meeting, the last town hall meeting, I was there. I was sitting right in the front row, and I was there, and she told them that there were calls coming in, and Worley knew all about it. There were calls coming in, and there were people begging, pleading, please get police down here. There are hundreds of individuals with guns and knives. Foxtrot reported 900 to 1,000 people, and all of this was going on, and this went on for hours, the calls coming. And I don't believe they showed all the calls. And this after action report, we're going to be doing a deep dive. I want everyone to know this. I said that F5 hurricane was coming, and it's coming. We're going to do a deep dive into the after action report. It's coming soon, and we're going to do a report. I have the most, and I would consider, brilliant minds in Baltimore and some other areas too. I'm grabbing people from outside Baltimore as well. Good friends of mine, and they're really smart.
You know, if you really know about how reports are made and how they are configured, listen to the name of the report. It's called the after action report. What's wrong with a before, during, and after report? Not just an after report, because we will find if they give a report that talks about the before the incident and what happened during the incident, what you will do, you will expose all those different agencies that didn't do what they should have done, that should have known what was going on, but basically failed. Now they can make the article in the Sun this morning was on point. Police have an indifference toward the community, and this exposes it. That's why it's only called an after action report. They dare not put a before, during, and after report.
Well, the police have an indifference, and if the report was being done by MONSE, the Mayor's Office on Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, then they too would have the same attitude as well. And the Housing Authority, she made no sense whatsoever the lady in charge of, I forget her name, and she's talking about the fact that they didn't know about the Brooklyn Day party. And then she goes, well, basically the reason why they didn't know is because the staff that is there during the day, well, they don't stay there overnight. That's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. Because if the staff is there during the day, in the morning, during the day, early part of the evening, then all that time where there are flyers and posters up everywhere throughout that housing area, and you're telling me that they didn't know about it because they don't sleep there overnight? It's one of the stupidest.
The biggest lie that we've been able to expose. Why then did they pass out trash bags all throughout the apartment place? Why did they pass out trash bags if they didn't know an event was going to take place? So sometimes you just gotta put a piece of dirt on the ground and say, who's going to pick up the dirt? Well, they pass out major trash bags to all the residents before the event happened. But why did you pass out trash bags?
And I want to say something.
When the event was coming.
Doc, I want to bring this up quick, and then I want Ted to come in. Now, what happened after that mass shooting took place, and you went down to Brooklyn, that Brooklyn Homes, and you went there, and you told me something that happened when you went there? Could you let people know when this is Marvin Doc Cheatham, former president of the Baltimore chapter of the NAACP, going there that morning, could you tell the people what happened?
I know for me, to be real honest with you, it bothered me that I saw city workers just cleaning up, cutting down debris, removing cars, one of them removed an abandoned boat, and started boarding up some abandoned homes, and it bothered me because while we are still in the middle of what I consider triage, you know what I'm saying, with focusing on the obvious, because this is not something they should have had to live like this before 30 people got shot.
Exactly, but Ted, I want to do this, because I want to come back to you. I want Doc Cheatham. Doc, could you tell the people what happened when you went down there?
No, I couldn't tell you. I didn't go down there. My neighbors were telling me, Doc, don't go there because they're going to kidnap you because your community is just like the area that they in. No, I didn't go there. And the crazy was I want to go there today because they had another shooting down there.
Okay, Ted, so what was going on? What did you find out, Ted?
Well, in talking with the people, you just heard a level of frustration with some people saying there's been a shooting for the last 2 years at the exact same event. With other people, I talked to 3 separate families that individually called the police when the first fight broke out. So that was actually before the actually mass shooting.
Okay.
And then when they were trying to help people get out of harm's way, I think what bothered me is that they said that they had some of the officers were getting names and the dates of the date of birth, and then they started running some of their records. Now this was for more than one person, and I just thought that was in poor taste, because once you got their name and their information, you'll find out while a person is on the ground because of a gun wound. I don't think whether they had stole something or they got caught for selling weed 2 years ago, I think was even significant. And I think that some people were really frustrated. And what frustrated me, and I even asked, the thing about it, is I wanted to know from what I had heard from the community as I was working with them, giving them my direct number, letting them know that I can work with you, use like a mentor, let me, whatever. I wanted to know why was the rec center closed for over 10 years. And I asked the question because I wanted to know, is this possibly true? Because they opened it up and turned on the lights like everything worked.
Everything came right on. like you said, everything came right on. It just took.
Oh yeah, it was
been closed for 10 years.
I don't know if somebody just cleaned it, but they did. To me, they didn't have to go out and pay no bill or just have the lights done on. They came and they cleaned up, and he actually met with some of the chaplains from the police department and different organizations that were there. Now the people kind of wanted to talk with them, but they wouldn't allow, you know what I'm saying, I guess, you know, the people at that time. I think that meeting was just for specific, you know, people, but I think that kind of, you know, bothered me. That he said that he thinks it may have been a problem with staff, and that's what I think somebody told him. I don't know if it was somebody they had to maybe pay somebody, and to me, because I just felt that you should be able to find more elderly people that love being around youth to just be able to have a safe space, you know what I'm saying, open, you know what I'm saying, for this entire major community. This is, you know, it's a major community. This wasn't just no 2 or 3 houses. You're talking about an entire neighborhood. And they didn't have access to it, but the moment that 30 people were shot, it was opened immediately for use. And I think, for me, I got a little frustrated, you know what I'm saying, just even hearing that, because I could hear the frustration in the people's voices as they were talking to me in the community.
And there were people who were shot that where the police officers, instead of focusing on getting the individual who shot to the emergency room, giving them aid, and so on, which is what you're supposed to do. They were focused on an interrogation, because that's an interrogation. And asking questions.
To be honest with you, I almost wouldn't have even believed it if I didn't hear the same story from more than one person, you know what I'm saying, who told the people did not know each other or didn't get time to get their story together and share this with me. And the part that still was beyond me was the people who were shot and they waited so long for an ambulance that they ended up walking to the hospital. And, you know, for that to happen, I just thought was insane.
Well, that just goes to show you, I mean, they don't care about the citizens of Baltimore, and this is what the citizens of Baltimore can do. There is something you can do. You can call your council person, you can call your congressman, and you can demand that there be an outside investigation, a congressional investigation, an outside investigation onto what happened prior to, during, and after this mass shooting. Doc, what do you think? Hello, Doc.
Yes, indeed. You said it exactly right. Before, during, and after the event. And the main thing we want to have a thorough report, because we want to do everything that we can to prevent something like this happening again. And if you don't do a complete inquiry as to how it all happened, what things could have been done better, what did you know that you should have known or didn't know, it has to be a thorough investigation. And there were time restraints as to when they wanted to get this report out. So that's why it's only called an after report. Well, what happened before and during the event? And we want to know that what Paul Harvey said. We want to know the rest of the story.
Well, Brandon made it perfectly clear. He made it perfectly clear August the 30th that what did he say? I don't care. To tell you the truth, I don't care. So what happened prior to the shooting, the mayor of Baltimore City let the citizens of Baltimore City know, and it's a daggone shame that other media outlets, the bigger media outlets, I'm talking about Fox 45, WBAL, WMAR, and WJZ. It's a shame that they are just turning a blind eye, and not addressing the fact that the mayor made it perfectly clear that he does not care about what happened prior to the shooting. That's important.
I sent a text message to at least 25 black radio talk shows today, And basically, I just want to tell them, King used to always say it's not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. But if these talk shows are our friends, why aren't they saying something about this? We're only requesting what should be done. We want a thorough investigation, but we want outsiders to do it, not people patting themselves on the back saying they did a good job.
How are you going to investigate yourself? You're going to investigate yourself. You're going to do an investigation so that people don't get upset with Monsi Safe Streets, the mayor, the acting police commissioner, who, as far as I know, there's some rumor going around about him and the situation with him being acting police commissioner. So this guy, he doesn't even live in the city. He doesn't live in the city. He didn't live in the city when he was a deputy commissioner, and that's a whole another thing. And then he had some more shootings in Brooklyn. I just heard that they had some more shootings in Brooklyn as well. So that area, wow, what is going on there? But what I'm going to do is this, okay? We're going to let people know, I already did earlier, that there's going to be a report by some very intelligent, brilliant people. There's going to be a report, on the after report, a deep dive, and we're going to let the citizens know of what we came up with the inconsistencies, the blatant lies, and cover-ups, anomalies, or whatever else you want to call it, in this report, and we're going to put out our own report. So I'm letting everyone know the F5 hurricane is coming. I want to thank my co-host, superstar Marvin Doc Cheatham. Great job, Doc, today on this podcast. And our special guest, Dr. Ted Sutton. Again, fantastic. Glad you were here. Second time. And thanks. and great, fantastic show, guys. And we're going to have to run, but thanks for being guests on the show. And I want you all to take care. Take care, guys.
All right, God bless.
God bless.
God bless.
And take care of everyone. God bless. And you've been listening to the Outsiders podcast. God bless and goodbye.
You are now listening to The Outsiders.